Today we're talking about mountains. I'm gonna be completely real with you guys, I'm not the most experienced with making mountains in Minecraft. I've made a lot of neat stuff over the years, but mountains were always that weird thing that I never really tried my hand at, you know? But today we're changing that. I've been doing my research and cooking up some designs that I am very proud of. Custom mountainy terrain is an amazing thing to have in your Minecraft world, and with the new world height there are so many possibilities. And even though the vanilla game did add some cool mountains recently, I think we can do a lot better. Also, low-key, Minecraft mountains are like one of those funny little YouTube algorithm buzzwords that people really seem to gravitate to, so you know, all the more reason to try and make up a video about them. What can I say? I like watching numbers go up. Sit back, relax, and enjoy 7 quick tips for custom mountains in Minecraft. Big shoutouts to Shadow Slayer, Epix, and Guaco for the video idea. Alright, so when you're planning your mountains, there's 2 very important things we gotta consider: the biome and the block palette. You might be thinking, oh well duh, you just use stone. But if you want to make interesting mountains, well, it's a little bit more tricky than that. Like with any other kind of terrain, the blocks you use in your mountains really depend on the biome. You can kinda see this in the vanilla game if we look at the warm stony peaks and the cold frozen peaks side by side, but it goes a little bit deeper than that. I'd expect a mountain in a warm biome to have some warmer colors, maybe using a bit of terracotta, sand, or dirt, whereas a colder mountain, even if it doesn't have snow, is still probably going to be made up of cold, gray, brittle rock like stone and andesite. I know that's a lot of extra materials to gather up, but using some creative custom textures in your build is a great way to set it apart from the boring vanilla terrain. In today's video, we're going to be making some big, tall, frozen mountains, and I'm thinking about using this block palette. Stay tuned to see how the finished build turns out. So we've got a block palette, but like, what's the mountain gonna actually look like? Now I know we're still just talking about the prep work and that's not usually the fun stuff, but bear with me. Most people overlook how much prep work goes into big Minecraft builds like this, but not us. We're smart. Back to my question though, what's our actual mountain gonna look like? Once again, you might be thinking that I'm throwing another very obvious question at you, but I'm asking these for very important reasons. In the real world, older mountains will often be shorter and wider, mainly due to erosion. If we just pop open Google Maps real quick and check out, say, the Maconjwa, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Maconjwa Mountains in South Africa, or the Appalachian Mountains in the United States, you can really imagine the millions of years of rain and wind weathering these guys down. Not so much for newer mountains like the Himalayas in Asia, which are actually still growing. Depending on which of these styles you want to go with, you're going to be working with different shapes. Like I mentioned in the last tip, I'm leaning towards some taller, newer mountains, I guess, and as you can see here, I'm starting to lay down a basic shape. I'm using stone as a temporary block for right now. Once I'm happy with the shape, then the block palette goes in. Mountains are crazy big and a very daunting task, but I've got a very helpful trick to help make things easier. Yeah, so obviously building a whole mountain or mountain range from scratch in Minecraft is going to be a huge task and will take you a long time, but I'm sure you already know that. What I bet you don't know is that there's a cool trick for breaking down these mountains into segments that also helps them look more realistic. Let me explain. If you look at, well, basically any mountains in the real world, you'll notice that the trees only go up so high. Of course, this changes depending on the climate and whatnot, but in general, there's going to be a pretty obvious tree line on basically every mountain. If we go up a bit higher, you'll see that the same thing happens again up here with the grass. Here there's grass, and here there's not, just exposed rock. So let's do the same thing in our Minecraft world. Using this idea, we can pretty easily chunk out our mountain into 3 segments. Here I'm just laying out an outline for now, but now my mountain is split into 3 much more manageable zones. By doing this, you'll be breaking down your build into smaller tasks, and your mountain's gonna have that little extra bit of realism. Definitely give it a shot sometime. You're gonna need a lot more materials than you think. So here's the deal with mountains, right? Mountains are big. Yeah, I know, crazy. But what that actually means is you'll need a ton of materials, like way more than you think. Not only are you going to need blocks for the entire mountain itself, but you'll need scaffolding blocks, you'll need placeholder blocks in order to build sideways like this, you'll need lighting blocks on the inside, unless you want a mob farm. You'll need more blocks for detail work, which we'll get to later by the way. It's a whole lot. Now, of course, I'm not trying to discourage you. I think all you guys should try tackling large Minecraft projects if that's what you want, but just be ready for a mega resource grind. As I've been talking through these past few tips, we've been slowly putting together our very own mountain range, and now it's getting pretty close to done. At least the mountain itself is. We still need details, but that's coming soon. Anyways, to really get an idea of just how many blocks I had to place to make these mountains, let me get out our fancy little Lightmatica tool and take a look. Okay, yeah, that's a good bit. Imagine doing this in survival mode, right? Like, this already took a pretty long time, and I was doing it in creative, where I've got things like commands, world edit, infinite blocks, flight. If you make builds on this scale in survival, you're truly nuts, and I have a lot of respect for you. This mountain is looking not bad, but we're missing the details. Like with any other Minecraft build, details are the finishing touch, the icing on the cake that really makes your build complete. So we gotta give this mountain the same kind of love and care that we would a house, a custom tree, or anything else. I think a good way of doing this is to break down the different kinds of Okay, I'll stop, I'm sorry. Details into two types: foliage details and man-made details. For foliage, you can add stuff like grass, custom trees, fallen logs, bushes, all that kind of natural goodness, you know? As for man-made details, there's always stuff like pathways, watchtowers, campsites, and even ski lifts. I'm mainly going to be focusing on the natural foliage details in this build because I don't think a lot of man-made structures would really fit on a tall, snowy mountain range. And like we talked about in tip 3, I'm keeping all the foliage down on the bottom levels. It wouldn't make sense to have a whole spruce tree growing out of the snowy peaks. There's a hidden problem with Minecraft mountains that almost no one remembers until it's too late. It's very subtle, but it's always there, and it can really mess up your builds. I'm talking, of course, about snow. When you're building up high, accumulating snow becomes a real issue. And luckily for you, I've spent the time researching Minecraft biomes and their snow mechanics so you don't have to. Here's what you gotta know. First of all, of course, snowy biomes will always have snow buildup, but non-snowy biomes can have snow too. The following biomes will have rain below a certain Y level and snow above it. It's kind of confusing, I know, but we'll run through the whole list, so keep an eye out for any biomes that you might be building in. Windswept hills, windswept gravelly hills, windswept forest, and stony shores will start having snow anywhere between Y level 113 and 128. Taigas and the old growth mega spruce taigas will start having snow anywhere between the Y levels 153 and 168. Old growth pine taigas will start having snow anywhere between the Y levels 193 and 208, and the frozen ocean and deep frozen ocean actually generate snow in patches. It's not dependent on the height for whatever reason. If your biome wasn't mentioned there, then congrats. You don't need to worry about snow. But if you are dealing with a couple snow problems, here's a few ways to get rid of them. If you've got a lot of string on hand, maybe from a spider farm, you can just throw down a bit of string wherever you have snow. If you don't have string but you've got a lot of wool instead, you can use carpets. Or maybe you don't have string or wool but you've got bone meal. Then there's always glow lichen. The light might be a little bit visible at night though. You can use slabs, but if you're working with a funky block palette like me, then a lot of the blocks you're using might not have funky slab versions. At the end of the day, it's entirely up to you. Realistic mountains are very pretty, but we can go so much further. So we've made these mountains, and they're sick. But throughout this entire video, we've really just been talking about tips for realistic mountains. As in, like, the end goal is to make something that looks like real life, but in Minecraft. And that's dope. I'm sure we all really like that kind of look. But why stop there? There's so many wacky things you could throw into your mountains: floating islands, a giant fortress, some kind of demon summoning altar, or anything else really. Or you could get creative with your block choices. Maybe these snowy peaks are actually on Mars, or some other planet entirely. At the end of the day, there's absolutely nothing wrong with just going completely nuts with your ideas. That's what Minecraft is all about. If you're hearing this message right now, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. You've just done a lot to help out my channel in the weird, spooky YouTube algorithm, and I really appreciate that. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm still pretty new to Minecraft mountain building, but if you think I did a good job, I would love to know. Also, if you've got any ideas for future 7 Quick Tips videos, drop them down in the comments too. Until next time, gamers, this has been Leon, and I will see you all in the next 7 Quick Tips video. Stay cool, my dudes.